myself, Dr. Smriti Kaushal, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, हर्ष विद्या मंदिर, पीजी कॉलेज रायसी हरिद्वार। और आज हमारा डिस्कशन का टॉपिक है इकोसिस्टम। ये टॉपिक M.Sc और B.Sc क्लासेस दोनों के लिए एप्लीकेबल है। आज के इस लेक्चर में हम इकोसिस्टम, टाइप्स ऑफ इकोसिस्टम, कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ इकोसिस्टम के बारे में जानेंगे। नाउ लेट्स स्टार्ट इकोसिस्टम। इकोसिस्टम समझने के लिए सबसे पहले हमें इकोलॉजी को जानना होगा। इकोलॉजी क्या है? Ecology is the study of interaction between biotic, abiotic factors to their environment. Ecology term was given by German biologist Ernst Haeckel in 1869. Word ecology comes from the two Greek words oikos, meaning home, house or habitat, and logos means to study or knowledge. It is a study of or knowledge of our home. Now what is home? Home means surrounding in which we live. It is a study of interaction between living organism, non-living components and the environment. Ecology is the study of ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? The term ecosystem was first proposed by British ecologist A.G. Tansley in 1935. According to him, ecosystem not only includes only the organism complex but also the whole complex of physical factors forming our environment. It is a fundamental unit of ecology. It is the interaction of biological organization with their biotic and abiotic components. It includes plants, animals, microorganisms, and all other living things along with their non-living factors and other parts of nature which forms our environment. Now, types of ecosystem. In ecology, ecosystems are classified into different types based on the region or on the basis of environment like land or water. It can also be grouped based on the amount of energy the ecosystem consumes. Based on the habitat, ecosystem classified into two types: terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem. These ecosystems can only be found on land. Example: forest ecosystem, desert ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, etc. Forest ecosystem. These ecosystems are a densely packed environment of various flora and fauna. A forest is an area with a high density of trees. Forest ecosystem supports many animals and plants. Forests are characterized by warm temperature and adequate rainfall. Desert ecosystem. Deserts are defined as ecosystems that receive rainfall of less than 25 centimeter, indicating extreme climate. Even in harsh temperatures, there are organisms that have resistance towards high temperature and plants that require very little water to survive, having modified their leaves and stem to conserve water. Camels, rattlesnakes, and cacti are few examples of desert ecosystem. Mountain ecosystem. Mountains are regions of high altitude above sea level with scattered vegetation. It also has an extreme climate, and animals of these regions have developed thick fur on the skin to survive the cold climate. Grassland ecosystem. It mainly includes shrubs, herbs, and few trees which are not as dense as the forest. These basically include grazing animals, insectivores, and herbivores. The temperatures are not too extreme in these ecosystems. There are two forms of grassland ecosystem, the savanna and prairies. Savannas are the tropical grassland. It dries seasonally with many predators and grazers. The prairies are temperate grassland which lack large shrubs and trees. Aquatic ecosystem. The aquatic ecosystem consists mainly of animals and organisms that stay in water bodies such as lakes, oceans, and seas. Amphibians, fish, sea creatures all come under this ecosystem. Since water is in abundance, organisms survive using the oxygen dissolved in water. This ecosystem is much larger than the terrestrial ecosystem as it acquires a greater part of the earth. The two types of aquatic ecosystems are marine ecosystem and freshwater ecosystem. Marine ecosystem. It includes all the oceans and seas and constitute about 71% of the Earth's surface. Oceans cover more than 2/3 of the Earth's surface. It is characterized by high concentration of salts and minerals. It provides iron, magnesium, natural gas, etc. It is rich in biodiversity. Freshwater ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem includes all the rivers, lakes, ponds, and water bodies that are not salted. This accounts for 0.8% of the Earth's water and 0.009% of total water present on Earth. There are three types of freshwater ecosystem: lotic system, lentic system, and the wetlands. Lotic system where the water is fast moving, example river. पानी का बहाव जहाँ ज़्यादा होता है, तेज़ होता है, उन्हें हम लोटिक सिस्टम कहते हैं. Lentic system where the water remains stagnant, example ponds and lakes. रुका हुआ पानी जहाँ पर होता है उसे हम lentic system कहते हैं. And the wetlands where the soil remains saturated for most of the time period. Now, structure of an ecosystem. The term structures refers to the various components of an ecosystem. An ecosystem has two major components: abiotic components and biotic components. Non-living components of an ecosystem comes under abiotic components, while living organisms come under biotic components. Abiotic components. The non-living components, physical and chemical, of an ecosystem forms a community called abiotic community. Example: climate, soil, water, air, energy, etc. Biotic components. The living organisms of an ecosystem forms a community called biotic community. Example: plants, animals, and microorganisms. Abiotic components. Abiotic components includes inorganic substances, organic components, and physical factors. Inorganic substance includes nitrogen, carbon dioxide, phosphorus, sulfur, oxygen, etc. that are essential for the organisms. In an ecosystem, the quantity of inorganic substances present at any given time in the plant, animal, soil, water, and air is termed as standing state of the matter. Organic compounds, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and other organic substances made from the plants. Organic compounds in the form of food used by animals during respiration. As a result, energy is liberated. Surplus quantity, which is not used in respiration process, is stored in the form of complex organic compounds in the body of organism. Example: starches, lipids. When organisms die and fall on the ground, forms litter. The decomposers attack on the dead organic matter and break down the complex compounds into simple inorganic substances, which are again used by the green plants. Thus, organic compounds links non-living and living components. Physical factors. Physical factors include light, temperature, humidity, wind, etc. Biotic components. Biotic components includes producers, consumers, and decomposers. The biotic components consist of all the living organisms in the ecosystem. It can be classified as autotrophic organisms and heterotrophic organisms. Autotrophic organisms that produce their own food, जो अपना खुद का भोजन खुद से बनाते हैं, उन्हें हम autotrophic organism कहते हैं. Heterotrophic organisms depends on other organisms for food. This classification is based on the nutrition requirement of the organisms. Producers. These are the organisms in the ecosystem that generate the food and energy with the help of sunlight, oxygen, and all other abiotic components. The main producers of the ecosystem are the plant. Consumers. These are the organisms that take their nutrition from the food that is made by the producers. Consumers are also known as phagotrophs, macroconsumers, and biophages. Phago means to eat. Phagotrophs may be herbivore, carnivore, or omnivore. Various levels of the consumers are primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, quaternary consumers. Primary consumers. These organisms feed directly from the producers. They are herbivores, animals like deer, rabbit, cow, buffalo and giraffes. Primary consumers हम उन्हें कहते हैं जो डायरेक्ट आपके प्लांट्स को खाते हैं. Secondary consumers. These organisms feed on the primary consumers for their nutrition. वो consumers जो आपके प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर्स को खाते हैं उन्हें हम सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर्स कहते हैं. ये कंज्यूमर्स हमारे कार्निवोरस भी होते हैं और ओमनिवोरस भी होते हैं, जैसे क्रोज, डॉग्स, स्नेक्स, कैट्स एक्सेट्रा. टर्शरी कंज्यूमर्स. These organisms feed on the secondary consumers. These are carnivores where they only consume meat, usually by preying on prey. Example, lion, tiger, cheetah. वो कंज्यूमर जो आपके सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर को मार के खाते हैं, उनका मीट खाते हैं, उन्हें हम टर्सरी कंज्यूमर कहते हैं. क्वाटरनरी कंज्यूमर्स. These organisms feed on the tertiary consumers for their nutrition. Example, eagle. Eagle खाते हैं स्नेक को, स्नेक ने खाया फ्रॉग को, फ्रॉग ने खाया फ्लाई को. ये एक हमारी फूड चेन बनती है. Decomposers. These organisms break down dead matter and gain their nutrition, and the decomposed material returns back to the land, which will again be utilized by the producers to produce more food. Microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast, fungi, some protozoa attacks on dead plant and animal, break them down and obtain their food from them. Decomposers, also known as saprophages, scavengers, saprovores or reducers. This was all about ecosystem, their types and components of an ecosystem. Thank you.